Hi, this is Darcy Small from OnlinePCWizard.com, and we're going to continue our VMware tools install from our Debian 6 squeeze server. Okay, so last we were installing the programs make, GCC, and the Linux headers for our current kernel. Now, let us just double check and make sure that it's all installed correctly. Linux headers, uname -r. Okay, wonderful. It's already the newest version. Everything is already new. Okay, so let's go to the next screen. And this is what we should be seeing. Detected GCC library at whatever the location may be. And it appears to be a valid path, so we want to just hit enter. Would you like to change it? No. It's going to go ahead and try and build a system and compile the necessary modules and use the libraries and what's not. Whatever it has to do, it'll just sort itself out. So let me go and make one or two changes here. What I want to do before I start to make amends to the SSH configuration file, I want to allow this machine to be on the same subnet as some of the other machines that I have, because right now, if you see here, this is on a different subnet. This is on 192.168.0.10.0/24. I want to put that on the 192.168.1.0/28 network. Okay, so let me make the change here first, and then now we need to change this inside of our etc network interfaces. Okay, alright, so obviously I already have the information that I need to input here. You would have to get your necessary IP address information and your network and your gateway and what's not. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter an IP address, and I'm going to change my subnet mask to 240. Now the reason why this is 240 is I have basically I cut up my subnets into smaller subnets. Instead of using the entire 255 IP addresses, I just cut it down so that I'll have less IP addresses in each subnet. But it's nothing that you have to do. Okay, 10.0.1 .15 1.1. Okay, that looks like it. Now I just need to make sure that this is a proper working IP address. Now I'm not going to go ahead just yet because I still have to make this change inside of the virtual machine itself. This is in the operating system, but right now my virtual machine is running using a NATed environment. I need to change that to bridge. So I'm going to go ahead and go to VM settings, and here network adapter, I'm going to change that to bridged. Save. Okay, now let me just restart networking. No such process. Okay, done. I guess it just wasn't ready yet. Alright, now the next move is let's map our IP address to our host name, to a particular host name. So that's 1.8, so we need to go into etc/host. and here I'm going to change that from 10.150 to 1.8. And after I finish, I run the hostname updating script. Echo the exit status. Great, that's done. Okay. Wonderful. Let's check back on our install. Okay, wonderful. It's finished. So what you should do is, if you have to write it down or store it somewhere, take note of this message that the program has just given you. Now /etc/init.dnetworking stop, that's to stop networking and bring down the network interfaces. rmmod space PCNet32, that's to remove that module from inside of the kernel, and remove the other module as well, mod probe, basically to bring up the module and check for dependencies, and then to restart the network again. These are little troubleshooting things that you can, I guess, keep in your arsenal so you can try to remember them or write them, put it someplace safe. Now after this instance, what I'm going to go ahead and do now is just do a quick reboot. You don't have to, but I'm just going to do one in this instance. Okay. Here we go. Let's log back in. And make our way to making some changes. Let me show you before we even make any changes. Now, right now, let's just make sure SSHV for verbose. Let's see if we can log into localhost. And notice, if you do not put a username in front of localhost, it will try to log into the machine, or the localhost is basically I'm logging into myself via loopback, so, or the loopback interface. So let's give it a try. Yes, password. Okay, so that works. Let me exit out and let me try to log in now as root to localhost, and I will show you why I'm doing this afterwards. Okay, root's password. Okay, who am I? Who's logged in? It's W. Here we can see that Online PC Wizard is logged in at terminal 1. Now this is local terminal, and then there's root, which is, you can see PTS0. That is logged in via the network, via the SSH connection. So what we need to do here, let me just exit out and move back one step. Okay. Now CLEAR clear, that would clear your screen and remove all the previous messages or previous commands, not commands, sorry, the previous output that was sent to standard output. Whatever is printed onto the screen is called standard out, which is basically standard output. Now you can use reset as well, but mostly just use reset if you find that you're seeing a bunch of garbage characters, garbage symbols appearing on your screen as if you're trying to view a binary file. That happens sometimes, and you just hit reset and it resets your terminal. Okay, so now we're going to nano into /etc/ssh/sshd_config. Now this is the main configuration file for OpenSSH server, and here we have a few things that we're going to change. Now for one, you can see this is listening on port 22. Now this is by default SSH listens on port 22. Now we want to try to make our, especially if you allow access to your SSH server via the internet or over the WAN or whatever you want to call it, you should basically try to lock down your SSH server as much as you can, because there are lots of scripts and lots of tools and script kiddies out there that are just trying to crack everything they can. And if you're running on port 22, that's easy. There's automatic scripts will just try to hit you with loads of passwords, try to hit a lot of passwords and what's not. So that's another reason why we're going to change from password authentication to encrypted key authentication using RSA or DSA. RSA is basically Rivest, Shamir, Adelman, their algorithm, or the DSA, which is digital signature algorithm. But the DSA uses faster sign-in, but is significantly slower in verifying. Sometimes some people may not recognize this difference, but it is there. So let's change from port 22. Let's go to something like port 10, port 18,022. You can put whatever you want. So we've put a higher port. Right now you can have up to 65,600 and is it 35 ports if I'm correct? I'm not sure actually, but 65,000 and something. So there's quite a few other ports you can use, and you can't use any normal low-level port, which is between 1 and 1024, because, or is it 1023? You have to have root access to be able to use those other ports and leverage them on the system. And we are going to cut out root access to this machine. You have to log in via a normal user and then escalate or elevate your privileges. Okay, protocol 2, we don't want to use protocol 1 because that's outdated. And let's come down until you see log level info. In a later video I'll show you how to exactly view your logs, but since let's just put it to verbose. I like to see as much input as possible. Login grace time, that's 120 seconds, which is 2 minutes. Let me just put that to 60 seconds. Permit root login, no. Now after I put permit root login, we need to add something else here. So let's add allow users. And let's put my name, not my name, sorry, the online PC wizard name in the system, and okay. And next thing we should add here would be max of tries. And let's put that to 5. So this will only allow 5 incorrect attempts, password attempts or what's not to the system. But even though that we are going to use key encryption or from a particular IP address, now it's best you can use IP tables or net filter to build a firewall on firewall your system and block out certain things and limit certain ports and how much connections are coming to each port, but that's outside the scope of this tutorial right now. Let's change X11 forwarding to no. Let me add something here as well. Let's call it allow. But let's put a hash in front of that. We'll come back to that later. Allow TCP forwarding. Make sure I have it spelled correctly or I'll get an error. I'm not sure if I'm going to double check, but let's just put a hash in front of that right now. There's another one you can use if you want to use IP addresses, and this can stop a lot of reverse DNS attacks and hacking and so forth. Use DNS to no. We'll put a hash in front of that. We'll get back to that.